I have never loved anyone. It is not a sad thing to say, just a fact. Like having brown hair or being tall. It is just a part of me. I have watched people fall in love. In movies, they run through airports. In books, they write long letters. In life, they hold hands and laugh a little too loud. I have always watched from the outside, like looking through a window into a warm house on a cold day. I could see the light and the fire, but I could not feel the heat. My world was quiet. It was made of books and long walks and the sound of rain on my roof. I had friends, good people who I cared for, but there was always a space between us, a wall made of glass that I could see through but not break. I would listen to their stories of love and heartbreak, nodding in all the right places, but the words were a foreign language. The feelings they described were colors I had never seen. I thought my heart was simply not made for that. It was a good heart, a steady heart, but it was a heart that beat only for itself. Then, one day, the weather of my life changed. It was not a storm or a hurricane. It was a gentle shift in the air. I was in the park, a place I often went to read. The sun was soft that afternoon, making the green leaves of the trees glow. I was sitting on my usual bench, lost in a story about faraway lands, when a dog came and dropped a worn-out ball at my feet. It was a big, happy dog with a clumsy run. I smiled and picked up the ball. Then you came. You were walking, not running, after the dog. You stopped a few feet away, a little out of breath. "Sorry about that," you said. Your voice was calm, like the feeling of a quiet evening. "It's okay," I said, holding up the ball. You smiled, and it was not a big, bright movie smile. It was a small, real smile that made the corners of your eyes crinkle. "He does that. Thinks everyone is here to play with him." I threw the ball, and the dog bounded after it with joy. You did not leave. You sat on the other end of the bench. We did not talk for a while. There was just the sound of the dog panting and the distant city hum. It was not an awkward silence. It was a comfortable one, like we were two old friends who did not need words. You asked about my book. I told you about it. You told me about a book you had just finished. Our words were simple. There was no clever talk, no trying to impress. It was just an exchange, easy and light. When the sun began to set, painting the sky in soft shades of orange and pink, you stood up to leave. "Maybe I'll see you here again," you said. It was not a question, just a simple hope. "Maybe," I said, and I did. We both kept coming back to the same park, the same bench. Sometimes we would talk for hours. Sometimes we would sit in that same comfortable silence, reading our own books. I learned small things about you. You liked the color blue. You drank your coffee with too much sugar. You had a way of looking at things, really looking, as if you could see the story in everything. You looked at a crooked tree and saw a dancer. You looked at a crack in the pavement and saw a river. I started to feel something new. It was not a loud, crashing wave of emotion. It was a slow, rising tide. I found myself thinking about you at odd times. I would be washing dishes and wonder what you were doing. I would see the color blue and my heart would do a little flip. It was a quiet, gentle thing, this feeling. But it scared me. My glass wall was still there, and I was safe behind it. This new feeling was a crack in the glass. I did not know what to do. I had spent my whole life believing I was different, that I was incapable of love. This feeling did not fit into the story I had told myself. So I tried to run away. I stopped going to the park. I filled my days with work and chores, trying to push the thoughts of you out of my head. For a week, my world went back to being quiet. But now, the silence was different. It was not peaceful anymore. It was empty. The quiet was filled with the sound of your missing voice. The long walks were lonely because you were not there beside me. My steady heart felt unsteady. After a week of this self-imposed exile, I heard a knock on my door. It was you. You were just standing there, looking as uncertain as I felt. You were holding a book. "You left this at the park," you said, holding it out. It was not my book. I must have looked confused. You gave another one of your small, real smiles. "Okay, it's not your book. It's an excuse." I was worried. I missed our talks. My heart, my quiet, steady heart, did something it had never done before. It ached. It ached with feelings so big and so powerful that it shattered the glass wall into a million tiny pieces. And in that moment, standing in my doorway, I knew that this was it. This was a feeling from the books and the movies, but it was not loud or dramatic. It was quiet. It was gentle. It was real. It was a feeling of wanting to be near someone, not for what they could give you, but just for who they are. It was a feeling of your world being a little less gray because they were in it. I stepped aside and opened the door wider. "Do you want to come in?" You did. You came into my quiet world, and you did not fill it with noise. You filled it with a gentle warmth. We sat and talked. I told you things I had never told anyone. I told you about my glass wall and my fear. I told you that I thought my heart was broken or made wrong. You listened. You really listened. When I was done, you did not tell me I was silly. You did not try to fix me. You just reached out and took my hand. Your hand was warm and strong. "Your heart isn't broken," you said, your voice soft. It was just waiting. From that day on, everything was different, and yet everything was the same. We still took long walks and read our books. We still had our comfortable silences. But now, when we sat in silence, our hands were linked together. When we walked a little closer. The space between us was gone. Loving you was not about running through airports. It was about making you a cup of coffee in the morning, just the way you like it. It was not about writing long, poetic letters. It was about the small note left on the table that said, "Have a good day." It was not about grand gestures. It was about the way you would put a blanket over me when I fell asleep on the sofa. It was about the way my name sounded when you said it. One evening, we were sitting on that same park bench where we first met. The air was cool and the stars were beginning to appear, like tiny pinpricks of light in a dark blue blanket. Your head was resting on my shoulder, and my arm was around you. We were watching the world grow dark together. I thought back to the person I used to be, the person who watched love from behind a window. I had been so sure of who I was, of what I could and could not feel. I had built a fortress around my heart to keep it safe, but all I had done was keep it lonely. You did not storm the fortress. You just stood outside and waited until I was brave enough to open the gate myself. You looked up at me. "What are you thinking about?" I looked at your face, your calm and gentle face, and I felt a wave of pure, simple happiness wash over me. It was a feeling of being home, of being completely and utterly known. "I was just thinking," I said, my voice quiet in the night air. "I have never loved anyone before." You smiled, and your eyes crinkled in the way I had come to know so well. You leaned in and kissed me, a soft, simple kiss that said more than words ever could. It said, "I know." It said, "Me too." It said, "And now we are here." And in the quiet of the park, under the soft glow of the rising moon, I knew it was the truest thing I had ever said. I had never loved anyone. Not until you.